If you're a single man who wants to become more confident, meet more women, or simply get better at navigating social situations, there's one book you should read. That book is The Game by Neil Strauss. Published in 2005, The Game takes readers inside the strange underground world of pickup artists who became obsessed with studying attraction, conversation, and human behavior. Many of their tactics are brilliant. Some are cringeworthy. But as you read this book, you're going to start to understand what you've been doing right and what you've been doing wrong when it comes to meeting women. The Game is one of the most useful and entertaining books ever written about dating, confidence, and male insecurity. You'll learn more from this book than any dating course or YouTube video. Here are 5 reasons why every single man should read it. Reason number 1, it's a great read. The Game is not a boring dating manual. It remains one of the most engaging and wildly entertaining books I've ever read. Neil Strauss was already an accomplished journalist and author when he entered this world, and he knows how to tell a story. The book pulls you in as Strauss recounts his wild journey and amazing transformation. At the beginning, Strauss describes himself as an average frustrated chump, a successful writer who nevertheless feels completely lost around women. He begins investigating an underground community of men who trade seduction advice online. But instead of simply observing them, he becomes one of them. Strauss adopts the name Style and begins changing practically every aspect of his life. He studies fashion, body language, storytelling, confidence, and social dynamics. Before long, he goes from being terrified of approaching women to becoming one of the most successful and respected men in the community. That transformation alone would make for an interesting story. But the book also includes eccentric characters, celebrity encounters, wild nights in Hollywood, intense friendships, bitter rivalries, and increasingly disturbing psychological breakdowns. The stories of Strauss approaching and interacting with women are some of the most riveting parts of the book. Most men can relate to the anticipation, awkwardness, uncertainty, and occasional exhilaration of trying to connect with someone they find attractive, which makes his successes and failures feel remarkably familiar. You see the excitement that draws these men into the lifestyle, but you also see the insecurity, obsession, and emptiness that can come with it. It's part memoir, part psychological drama, and part exposé of a bizarre subculture. You'll laugh at some of the stories, you'll cringe at others, and there will probably be moments when you recognize some of your own insecurities in Strauss and the other men. Even if you never use a single technique from the book, The Game is still an incredibly entertaining read. Number 2. You'll learn more about meeting women than you will from almost any dating guide. Most dating books give you abstract advice. Instead, Strauss pulls you deep into a fast-paced, unbelievable true story that reveals far more about human nature, confidence, insecurity, and social dynamics than any dry list of openers or routines ever could. You'll laugh, cringe, get inspired, and relate to the characters and situations in ways that pure technique books rarely achieve. You'll meet characters like Mystery and Ross Jeffries, 2 of the all-time great pickup artists, and learn about the mystery method and speed seduction. You'll learn about negs and language patterns. As Strauss morphs into Style, you're learning along with him. The book explores specific situations, like how to approach a woman who is surrounded by friends. It explains why immediately focusing all your attention on the woman you find attractive can sometimes work against you. And it shows how body language, storytelling, humor, and social awareness influence an interaction. The book shows us that approaching women is a social skill, and social skills can be studied, practiced, and improved. Strauss learns how to start conversations without immediately creating pressure. He becomes better at reading reactions, handling rejection, and understanding when someone is interested. The book also shows his failures. You see what happens when he misreads a situation, relies too heavily on a technique, or becomes so focused on producing a result that he stops behaving naturally. That honesty is what makes the book so valuable. You aren't just being handed a collection of pickup lines. You're following someone as he experiments, succeeds, fails, and gradually becomes more socially capable. Of course, you're not going to copy everything Strauss and his crew tried. The point isn't to become Neil Strauss or copy a character like Mystery. The point is to treat the book as a body of knowledge you can draw from. Take the lessons that make sense, discard the ones that don't, and adapt the useful ideas to your own personality. Reason number 3. It offers a better alternative to the toxic advice that demeans women. The pickup artist community has received its share of criticism, and some of it is fair. Early tactics from guys like Mystery or Ross Jeffries can sometimes be cringeworthy. The game also reveals the downside of taking this approach too far. Many of the guys who mastered these intricate rules and techniques couldn't find a way to balance their skills into a normal life. But at their core, many of these approaches are about practical self-improvement, like overcoming approach anxiety, building confidence, learning how to hold conversations, reading social cues, and creating mutual attraction. The pickup artists are encouraging men to actually go out, interact respectfully, get rejected, learn, and eventually form real connections. And despite its flaws, the central message is much healthier than the toxic advice being pushed at frustrated young men today. There are now influencers who tell men that women are the enemy, that relationships are purely transactional, and that being an alpha male means dominating everyone around you. That advice doesn't make men more attractive. It makes them angry, paranoid, and resentful. The game starts with a much more useful premise. Instead of blaming women for your problems, work on yourself. Become more interesting. Improve your appearance. Learn how to tell a story. Develop a sense of humor. Build a social life. Get comfortable talking to strangers. Pay attention to how people respond to you and adjust your behavior accordingly. You don't need to insult women, resent women, or pretend that you're superior to them. You need to become a man women will actually enjoy meeting. That requires confidence, but it also requires empathy, social awareness, and respect. The best lesson from The Game isn't how to manipulate attraction. It's that complaining about women accomplishes nothing. Improving yourself and learning how to connect with people can change your life. Reason number 4. It will motivate you to get out into the real world. This may be one of the most important reasons to read the book today. Dating apps and social media have made it easier than ever to avoid face-to-face interaction. A man can spend hours swiping, messaging, and watching videos about dating without developing any actual dating skills. He can convince himself that he's working on his love life when he's really sitting alone with his phone. The game pushes in the opposite direction. The men in this book go out. They approach people. They start conversations. They get rejected. They analyze what happened, make adjustments, and try again. Sometimes they embarrass themselves. Sometimes they have incredible nights. But either way, they gain experience. That experience eventually reduces the fear. You learn that rejection isn't fatal. An awkward conversation isn't the end of the world. And talking to someone you find attractive doesn't have to feel like a major life event. You also begin to realize that the goal isn't necessarily to get every woman's phone number. The goal is to become comfortable in the world. Go to parties. Meet new people. Talk to women without putting enormous pressure on every interaction. Build friendships. Develop stories and experiences worth sharing. Most importantly, have fun. Reading The Game will probably leave you with a list of things you want to improve. Maybe it's your clothing, your fitness, your conversation skills, or your fear of approaching people. But the book's most powerful effect is that it makes you want to take action. And action is what most struggling men are missing. You can watch 1,000 dating videos, memorize hundreds of lines, and endlessly debate male-female relationships online. None of that replaces having real interactions with people. Reason number 5. No woman's reaction should define your self-worth. This may be the ultimate lesson of The Game. Early in the book, Neil Strauss internalizes every rejection. Like many men, he doesn't see a woman's lack of interest as one unsuccessful interaction. He sees it as proof that something is fundamentally wrong with him. A lukewarm reaction can crush his confidence for the rest of the night. An outright dismissal can stay with him much longer. Many single men fall into the same trap. They approach one woman, she isn't interested, and suddenly they're questioning their appearance, their personality, and their value as a man. But one person's reaction in one particular moment is not an objective verdict on your worth. It is simply information. Her response may be influenced by her mood, her circumstances, her relationship status, her personal tastes, what happened 5 minutes before you approached her, or countless other variables that have little or nothing to do with you. Of course, you should still be willing to examine your own behavior. Maybe your approach was awkward. Maybe you talked too much. Maybe you missed a social cue. Those are things you can learn from. But there is a huge difference between saying, "That interaction didn't go well," and saying, "There must be something wrong with me." One is useful information. The other is emotional quicksand. When you tie your self-image to the response of every woman you meet, you are effectively outsourcing your self-esteem to strangers. Every positive reaction makes you feel powerful. Every rejection tears you apart. That isn't confidence, it's dependence. By the end of Strauss's journey, the real game is no longer simply about learning how to attract women. It is about becoming a stronger and more resilient man. The greatest freedom comes when you stop outsourcing your self-esteem to strangers and instead build it internally through consistent action, skill development, and self-respect. Then rejection becomes information rather than condemnation. You can look honestly at what happened, learn anything useful from it, and move forward without allowing one person's opinion to redefine you. That mindset shift separates men who remain stuck from men who grow. And in a world that often measures male value by romantic success, this may be the most powerful and lasting takeaway from Strauss's entire story. A woman can decide that you are not right for her. She does not get to decide what you are worth. In the end, this book can be an amazing tool if you use it the right way. The Game is not a perfect instruction manual, and it shouldn't be treated like one. Don't copy every routine. Don't adopt someone else's personality. And don't become obsessed with getting a particular result from every interaction. Read it as a great story, a collection of useful social lessons, and a warning about what happens when self-improvement turns into unhealthy obsession. As you read it, you'll naturally start thinking about your own life. How can you be better? Chances are you'll pick up a few things that will immediately improve your game. I know I did. And then you'll have other things you know you need to work on. It will also motivate you to get out there more. Some of you will pick up a few tips here that will dramatically improve your success with women. Others will use this to completely transform how you think about and approach women. All of you will be left with a better understanding of what you can do to improve your own game. Then it's just a matter of acting on it. That's why, more than 20 years after it was published, every single man should still read The Game. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel if you like this content. If you've already read this book, tell us your favorite lesson that you learned in the comments.